Hi, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are joining. We are very, very glad that we have yet another episode of Intersect Virtual Festival hosted by Masters Union. This is your host, Ankur Vora. I'm the head of institutional partnerships, and as you are aware, due to a personal emergency, we were not able to host this on 28th of May, which was the scheduled day. I'm so grateful to Dr. Ambika Gulati that she has adjusted her schedule to be back here to complete this conversation. Uh, we have a very, very interesting subject, and and many more important is the speaker that we have. We have Dr. Ambika Gulati, the principal of the Millennium School, Dubai. And I was reading her profile for this conversation. I went through the website and I did my research, as is my habit for all my podcasts and all my conversations. I think this gave me an opportunity to know her better. Although I know her for last decade or so from my time at OP Jindal Global University, when I had the honor of visiting her school with Dr. C. Rajkumar, the Vice Chancellor, in I think 2018. I was there, or 2019. And we had a fantastic time. And coming back, almost I was reading her profile, and I just saw that she has worked for over 20 years in leadership positions of schools across India and Middle East. I mean, she was, I think, substantial amount of time, almost 15 years, was spent at Sanskriti School in Delhi, which is one of the best and leading schools in the country. And then overall, she was an investment banker. I mean, this is a new thing that I got to know. She started her career as an investment banker. Then it took within 4 years, she understood that her heart lies at education, and she came back and started working in education space, and has been doing phenomenal work. And uh, uh, I think alumna of University of Cambridge, St. Stephens. And I recently saw your post on LinkedIn that you were at Cambridge, if not a couple of months back, for a reunion. And you have been with the Millennium School Dubai since 2017 as the principal. So completing almost a decade at that. And I have been closely following the growth at Millennium School since last 10 years, and it has been phenomenal, ma'am. So really grateful that you are here and we are having this conversation as part of Intersect. I also want to acknowledge that Dr. Gulati was with us at Masters Union campus in February for Intersect 5, and where again she was a panelist, and we had a fantastic conversation and some insightful conversations over the course of the 3 days that we had the honor of having her on our campus. And the team at Masters Union is closely working with the Millennium School. I know for a fact that we are hosting a boot camp on entrepreneurship and AI for the students at the Millennium School Dubai. Again, those opportunities uh, started opening once we connected with Dr. Gulati, and we she understood more about us, and we understood as an institution how we can collaborate. So thank you so much, Dr. Ambika, for being here. The subject that we are going to discuss today is small changes, big results, transforming pedagogy from within. And again, this is my lived experience with some of the leading educators that I had the honor of meeting and greeting in my course of last almost 2 decades long journey across 40 plus schools, 1,000 plus institutions. Some of the best principals I have known are the people that believe in first working on the small changes and then going for the big things. And Dr. Gulati is one of those principals that I have come to respect and honor. And when I reached out to her, for the virtual festival programming, I said, this is a subject that I want to speak to her about. And I'm so happy that we are doing it today. One final thing that I want to highlight here as part of our room hygiene. This session is being recorded, and we will be putting this on our Intersect Masters Union YouTube and social media handles as well. So, Dr. Gulati, welcome. So glad and grateful to have you here with us, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ankur, for inviting me. And thank you to Masters Union for inviting me first for the panel. Now, working with the students of the Millennium School, we've had, I think, 2 sessions last week and this week. And the students have enjoyed that interaction with your team of educators. So, very, very grateful for this partnership. Thank you for
Thank you,
having me.
ma'am. Thank you so much, and we look forward to continuing our partnership both institutionally and me personally. I get to learn so much when I have an opportunity to speak with you, and I keep looking for opportunities to keep coming back to you and saying, okay, let's talk about this. So
Thank you for that.
today we are going to talk about small changes, big results, transforming pedagogy from within. Uh, I mean, I will put it this way. We attend so many conferences and we are part of, I mean, I'm sure you do it and I do it as part of my living, where we talk about pedagogy. And I go to these conferences and hear, big things and all about how AI is going to change the pedagogy and how has to be brought into the system. But I also believe, as a faculty member myself, I teach in a university. But even at the university, I'm sure at the school level as well. I mean, we wait for big reforms. Okay, we are all looking for somebody from up there, top down approach to come down and some most of the times we point out to curriculum providers, okay, this XYZ should tell us this, and then we start implementing it. Our teachers that we lead, our community of students and parents that we lead, they are also looking for somebody from top up to tell us. But as I mentioned in my initial remarks, the best leaders and principals are those that are ahead of the curve, and they understand rather than waiting for those big changes to happen from top down or those big things to happen, we have to first start working on small things. So, what is that one small pedagogical shift in your experience? I'm sure there are many that has created a large impact in your classrooms at the institutions that you have served.
Thanks, Ankur. I think that's a very interesting question because you're right. When we start for any change, we always say, okay, what's the big picture? And, there's a whole action plan that you will write out to attain that end goal. But when it comes to pedagogical practice, we can't overwhelm the teachers. And practice takes, time to embed and to refine and to practice to make it, a lived experience for yourself. So I think one of the small changes, and we realized that every year, and we started our pedagogical transformation journey in, I think, 2018 at Millennium. And we said every year we'll try and do only one shift in our practice. And at that time, we started with what was called the learning intention and success criteria. And it's interesting. So the why was explained not just to faculty, but also to students, that through the learning intention, you will know not just what you're learning through a unit of study, but also the why behind it. You'll get an overarching sense of what that journey is going to be for the next maybe 8 lessons or 10 lessons or 20 lessons, which is a unit of study across the board. And then the success criteria. How will you as students be able to evaluate whether you have attained at the levels that the curriculum expects of you or the faculty is expecting of you? So just this one simple thing, very interestingly, it took time, whether we were writing that learning intention accurately, whether we could write success criteria accurately, whether every teacher was going to practice it, how was it going to be displayed in the classroom, how would they go back and circle back into it in every class. So, when you introduced even a small change, then when the granular steps of that come to play to bring consistency of practice. And interestingly, when we saw this, the impact, because you're asking what was the impact in your classrooms, the students started to speak the same language. And I remember one teacher shared with us that time when it was her birthday, and the students wrote for her, today's the learning intention is this, and it was linked to her birthday, and the success criteria for your birthday are these. So that's when you know that your change has started to embed, and it's being lived in the classrooms. But on a more serious note, when students were given that learning intention and the list of success criteria, they started to prepare for class and come in advance, because they knew that, okay, this is what they will probably be studying or learning. So a large majority of students did that. Can't say everyone. So the impact on learning was positive, because students now knew the trajectory of their learning that would take place in that unit of study, rather than work with the teacher just for those 40 minutes and then don't know what is going to come the following day and the following day. So this is one of the small
Wow.
steps.
So I mean, just to summarize for my audience, I'm is talking about implementing a unit of study. So let's say as a student, like we teach, I mean, at the university level, I teach it for a semester, which is about 3 months long. At a school, it will be a year-long project, ma'am, a year-long
No,
course, right?
no. The
So how
course,
does it
the
work?
subject will be, so for example, you say economics, right? Which is my subject. Now you've got a curriculum that has been given to us, but there are different units of study. So let's say you have to teach the concept of demand. That
Hmm.
concept of demand will probably, I know as a faculty, will take about 10 lessons for them to study. So instead of going every day and doing one part of it, on the first day, I'm going to tell them, in the next 10 or 20 lessons, you're going to,
No.
this is the overarching outcome that you're going to end at the end. These are the steps that we are
Hmm.
going to take. So it's almost like a map. You know how you see Google Map?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if you see, you've got the start point and you've got the end point. And then it also tells you all those right turns and left turns and roundabouts that you're going to take. And that then
बताइए.
and then you have also success criteria. Okay, you have studied demand. But the question is, how will a student know that they have, reached the level that you expect them to? So you will phrase some success criteria that I can do this. So for example, I can define demand. I can, differentiate between, let's say, movement and shift of demand. So it's simple things you give them, then the students know exactly what you're looking for in that unit of study, and that accelerates their learning.
Absolutely, I can even imagine if we are trying to implement this, this will be fantastic because a lot of the time students want to understand what is the relevance of what I'm studying and how long is this subject going to last, or topic or concept, as you mentioned, economics is going to last, and what is the benefit, and what does success look like. I mean, most of the time it is about grades. I mean, we do class quizzes, we do mid-semester exams, and but this is actually taking them on a ride and telling them conceptually what you should be learning on day one, day two, day three, day four, and finally this is the outcome that. So I mean, this is a phenomenal, and I think we do not need somebody from outside or top-down approach. So what a wonderful initiative! I'm sure, as you mentioned, the students connecting a teacher's birthday to learning outcomes is the example of they enjoying this method of teaching. So thank you so much, ma'am. And you also mentioned teachers. You mentioned teachers are overloaded, and that's a fact. I mean, you are leading one of the best schools. But if let's talk about even in India and other schools in the Gulf, I know that schools and teachers are overloaded, and there's a lot of resentment that comes in. Let me put a strong word there that okay, there is a new method now. Will teachers feel that they know how to best teach themselves? So before the buy-in of the student, I think the buy-in of the teacher is more necessary. And I mean, I was at a couple of weeks back. I was at IIM Ahmedabad for a school leaders program on a week long, and one of the courses there was how to take the buy-in of teachers for any changes that you want to bring in, and coordinators and senior coordinators, and how principals should tackle that, and that opened my mind. I think that is what we should also. As a very very celebrated principal, how can school leaders introduce innovation without making teachers feel that they are being handed one more thing to on their plate?
I think that's a very interesting question, Ankur, because I think change is a norm, it's a given, and but teachers should not feel overwhelmed with it, so or by it, and therefore, how do you bring that shift and change in their practice or whatever innovation that we are thinking of? So, I think if they understand the rationale for change, and it can be rooted in data or evidence,
Mm,
I think then,
evidence.
yeah, then teachers would say, okay, yes, we can see a gap, and therefore, yes, it needs to be addressed. So simple things. If you show them, let's say, a trend in attainment data, and you can see a falling trend for your department, then how would you like to fix that? How would you like to address this trend decline that you're seeing? I think when you make teachers partners in that innovation, it always helps because then they feel that their voice is included. And if they are suggesting steps towards bringing in that improvement, And you can't, innovation can be even that small step. So like I just shared learning intentions and success criteria. When you introduce it in the school, it's an innovation. So how do you manage that, and how do you bring that culture of change with trust? And I know, we can talk about trust a lot in this field, but that is how it would be. So take their suggestions, make them feel that their voice is heard, explain the rationale behind the thinking as to the innovation, and also make it data driven and evidence based, so that they can see that this is the gap we are addressing and this is what we would like to do. And I'll share a small example. We wanted to bring in a new assessment framework for our faculty a few years ago, and we called it mindful assessment. And the leadership team was worried that they would feel exactly what you're saying, that it's going to be an overload on assessments, etc. And what we did very interestingly is we said, okay, this is what you're doing currently, and this is what we'd like you to do. And we drew arrows to show them that all we were asking them to do is to realign some of the things that they were doing rather than create anything new for them. And what we were worried that faculty will give us a big pushback on it, actually they accepted very easily, because suddenly they felt it was not new work, it was just realignment, and it was helping them to achieve another goal that the school had set for itself.
Absolutely. I think you have hit the hammer on the nail. Absolutely. I think a data-driven approach, and taking teachers as partners rather than, people that have to be hunted around or ordered around that you need to do this, and applying the logic of how does it help them look better, or how does it make them a better teacher for their students, and how do they improve on the metrics that the school or whatever metrics. I mean, as teachers, I'm pretty sure that every teacher wants to do the best job of him or herself in the classroom. I mean, it's very sad if they have not teachers around like this, but every teacher wants to be the best teacher for the student that he or she is teaching. And if you can help her in doing that, and you really spoke really nicely about the, the learning initiatives that you took, I think it should be a frictionless process. And then probably, ma'am, I just want to add here, and probably once we have applied this, and I would love to hear your experience with this. I mean, it is not a one-time thing. I mean, there should be continuous coming back and going back and
Yes,
understanding where the
absolutely.
customization needs to happen. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'll just go back. I think if we as leaders make their fears visible, and
Hmm.
say, this is probably why you would worry about this change, or this is how you're going to see that the change will add to your workload, but this is how it's going to pan out, and we'll support. And I think when they feel, that's why I use the word included, and they feel, make them partners in that journey, because change will always lead to fear, and change will always, because you're shaking the status quo and you're asking
Hmm.
them to do something new, which it's uncertain and they don't know about it. So therefore, it will lead to that anxiety. So which, if we address as leaders, that will happen. And you're right, because it also it's an iterative process. So we've tried
Yeah,
something new. You need to take feedback from the faculty to say, is it working? What are the changes you might want? What is the tweaking you need to do? And I think that process of changing will always lead to better results. And why only
better
teachers?
outcomes.
Also lead our students. So,
Yeah,
when we introduce these small pedagogical changes, we do a yearly reflection from the students. So that change is actually put into the student feedback, so that we get a sense of where the students and how the students are perceiving the change that has been introduced for their learning, because you're actually introducing it to improve their learning.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I also want to just touch upon this subject of, rather than the principal initiating, small changes, maybe the teachers can also come up and
Yes.
say, oh, we want to share some example there where teachers have come up and done something phenomenal that in hindsight you feel was amazing.
So I think one example that comes very readily into the mind is about the math in middle school. So I had faculty of the math department come in and say that, I don't know why we give the drill and practice we are constantly doing in class, and the higher order thinking questions get left out. and we don't get time to do those. And therefore, we are seeing that perhaps students are not attaining at the levels we would like them to attain. And so we said, all right, so what would you like to do? So we said, we'll flip it and we'll do the higher order thinking questions in lessons, and we'll leave the drill and practice for home. And so, we said, then we debated to say who's going to be impacted, how do we need to communicate that? And the teacher said, first, we need to have parent buy-in for this, because
Mm.
parents typically would like all those exercises in a math textbook to be done in a notebook, but done in the class with the teacher. So, bringing parents, the teachers themselves then spoke with the parents, said, this is how we want to bring the change. And they partnered with them, and it worked. And it worked. So, of course, we also had to see that the kids and the students did those drill and practice questions at home. So when teachers, because see, they are what I don't know if you've read this book by Better by Atul Gawande. He talks about a concept of a positive deviant. And in that,
Okay.
positive deviance means that someone who's really on the ground, they see the gaps better than anyone who's up there in the hierarchy. And some of the best solutions come from people who are engaged with that everyday problem. So if we give teachers the voice and the agency to bring change and suggest change and be that positive deviant in our schools, schools will flourish.
No, absolutely, totally echo this and with you. I've not read the book Better, but I will definitely now buy it once you have recommended it. And it sounds like a wonderful book for us to read. And I completely agree with your thought process and ideas that we should be talking about uh, more to people on the ground, practitioners who are day in, day out going to that classroom and solving those challenges in maths, physics, science, whatever subjects. I mean, they are the experts in whatever problems that they are dealing with on a daily basis. And then probably if they come to us, we can probably have a better outlook. Perfect. And another thing that I want to touch upon just briefly, I know we have discussed this, but today's we are all about AI. You open social media, AI news, AI. I mean, everything is AI. We are all talking about. I mean, big fortunes being built in the Silicon Valley, and it's just the news cycle is about AI since last couple of years at least. And education is one of the big things that everybody is talking about. How education, apart from everything else that is going to be transformed, education is going to be transformed, and people have opinions about is it good, is it bad? I mean, there is not much because the systems are still evolving. There is still not substantial evidence-based research on the use of technology. How does it impact the learner? And we keep on hearing this news that Australia banned the use of screens, and Sweden banned use of screens, and the middle school kids are not allowed. So, what is your take? I mean, how do teachers make sense of this whole I mean, then there is an obvious fear of will the teacher be replaced by AI, and then
Will
मेरी
never
job का क्या
happen.
होगा?
Which will never
नहीं होना
happen.
चाहिए. I mean, I keep reading about this about. I mean, one of the things I keep reading for last 20 years I've been in this space how universities are dead now. For last 20 years I've been reading those articles. I'm like, no, then universities are never going to phase out. Teachers are never going to be phased out. But yeah, we keep I mean, it's like washing machine. It keeps coming around every day, and I'm like, how many time you negate it? Teachers are not going to go anywhere. Good schools, good institutions, good universities are not going to go anywhere, which really solve the current challenges that we face, our kids face. We have to prepare them for future. If you are solving that, I mean, Masters Union. Let me give you an example. We started in 2020 in the middle of pandemic. 60 top students came and joined us, and today we have an incoming class of the first batch was 150 142 students in 2023. This August we are having 500 plus students and 5 new programs we have launched.
Wonderful.
So whenever people tell us that universities are dead, no, universities have to evolve, and good teaching, good teachers are respected. They were in the old times, and even today. I mean, you have to evolve. So I mean, what would you say? What are those things that you will advise teachers on with regards to AI? What are the small changes? I mean, should teachers make to keep learning and their practice relevant and engaging? I mean, it's more about their own practice. How do they make sense of this whole news cycle that we keep hearing?
I think, Ankur, AI is here to stay. So I don't think there's any point in challenging whether it will impact or not. It will impact. I think that's a given. Now the question is, how do we keep learning relevant for the students? So if you're going to teach from a textbook and teach them what they can find on their own, or from the internet or from the AI, then I think we've lost the plot. So
Yeah.
if, and I think mostly if you see World Economic Forum, you look at OECD, look at companies like McKinsey, Deloitte, and all the research that they're doing, employers today are looking for skills, especially critical thinking, problem solving, skills, which therefore means that if we are preparing students for the future, we need to bring those skills into our classrooms, especially at school level, which is what we are trying to do. What are those programs, or how can you build those skills even in English class, a math class, a science class, a social science class, French, Arabic, whichever subject that you are teaching? How are you building? And then if you read Professor Rose Luckin's work on the human intelligences and artificial intelligences, she has defined 7 intelligences that, are there. And she says 3 of which AI will catch up with human intelligence. But there are others. And what she says, especially metacognition, is not something that the AI can do. So if we are able to teach young people how to think about their own thinking and to think about their learning journey, so it's not about just creating a project. It's like what Masters Union does. What's the process you've undertaken? Yes, you've used AI, but did AI actually support you? Were there some anomalies in that? Were you able to find a source that actually goes against what AI has said? If we can build those kind of structures in the learning process, and empower our faculty to do that, I think we will be doing service to our students, because it's no longer about what they're reading in the text and doing an exam on that. It's about building thinking skills, building creativity, building innovation skills, all those skills, especially since we, live in this kind of a world which is just so disruptive in its
Yeah.
being.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. And thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I am also mindful of the time. We have 30 minutes, and there's such a fantastic conversation that, I just lost a track of the time. So we still have, I think we'll go above five by about 5 more minutes above that scheduled time. We have a couple of more pointers to cover. And I want to quickly touch upon that. I mean, I also want your advice to other school leaders. I
Mhm.
mean, if you had to advise school leaders watching this conversation, I mean, what is the first internal change, as you also echoed, and I started this conversation? First, we have to work on ourselves. What is that first internal change they should make before expecting pedagogical transformations and big things from their teachers?
It's a big ask, but first look at the culture of the school. And if
Mm,
you want change to happen, be prepared that there will be failure. And there may be, there will be roadblocks, and there will be, because we can't think of everything. So are you allowing your faculty to take those pitfalls? Are you allowing them to take risk? What is the culture in your own school? I think that is something for a school leader to evaluate before they bring in any kind of a change model. And then can school leaders roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty to demonstrate what they are looking for in faculty in terms of their practice, in terms of how they want the instruction to be there. So can they model that change for their faculty? Can school leaders build, and here I'm talking about how to, and really boiling down to how school leaders can build trust, because for change to happen, there has to be a transparency, openness, and trust, and be able to say, yes, we made a mistake. Yes, this could be done differently. Let's
mm.
go back to the drawing board. And I think that's the culture we are looking for. If that sets in, I think we are good to go on any kind of journey, why pedagogical, any transformation in a school will take place.
Absolutely, absolutely, totally with you. And echo your entire sentiment. I think the culture, the school culture, is a key word. And I was reading an article a couple of days back where it said, money can buy you buildings, it can buy you all the equipment, but culture has to be built, and that cannot be bought only on the basis of money. Yes, money can enable it to a certain extent, but every day living that culture, and principal has this big role of being the role model and the gatekeeper for that culture, because he or she is the person that is the symbol for the students, for the parents, for the teachers of what the institution may have promised on their website, on their vision statement and the mission
Well, but
statement.
I'd like to also expand it to the leadership team because now it's
Please.
not about an individual. Now it's about team leadership. In any school, if you'll go, it's not a one-person show. It's about having a team of people. And, can you distribute that leadership even to include faculty and staff? How do you empower them? And then that leads to the whole space about succession planning and, preparing for the future. So there are lots of sub elements in that, but it's no longer one person charismatic leader who needs to be there. As you
Yeah,
know, the theories of leadership have evolved over time, and it's a lot to do with skills. It's a lot to do with how your personal relationships and how do you build teams, and that's the social glue that you bring to that into that school system.
agree. But here I'll just say this again, my lived experience, because I work with so many schools across so many sectors. We still need people like Dr. Gulati to be
That's very
there
generous of you to
as,
say that.
yeah, because I've been to so many schools and I've seen where sometimes the intentions are right, the promoters are trying to do the right things, but still they struggle sometimes, because the person who has to lead this and bring it's like a glue. Somebody has to bring those faculty, teachers, student, parents together. And yeah, so thank you so much, but I'll still say that we need you wherever
Yeah.
to build institutions, because as you said, institution building is a tough task, and it takes a toll on the person who is there at the center of it.
It's
Finally,
also
ma'am,
very exciting. It's exciting. It's an
it's
exciting.
exciting, yeah, yeah. But for certain kind of people, it is, oh my God, I don't want to get into all of this. So there's this personality of people that really live, and they seep their energy, transform the environment that they are in. They'll extend this energy in wherever direction that they are in. And I mean, even Zoom, I can feel this energy from you. And talking to you is like, okay, yeah, wow, these are all the right things that we have to do for the education sector. Why don't I have this conversation often? Is the thing that I am trying to find out. Why don't we, when I meet so many people, it's still a rarity to have these kind of conversations, and have, how you quote books, how you quote papers, how you are updating yourself. It comes across, I mean, it's not a big thing, but these are small things that you do on a daily basis, which make you, a better person, a better leader, and that is what I keep telling my colleagues. We have to, what we say is like lifelong learner. We actually have to implement that lifelong learning
As
every day
educators, we have to. If we don't role model
in
being
order to,
lifelong learners, we can't expect our
we,
students to do it.
we can't expect. That is the thing. Finally, uh, and we talked about this, you touched upon this culture. How do you create a school culture where teachers feel safe to experiment, fail, and improve instead of fearing observation and judgment, which is human psychology. We all are a bit anxious. We are always thinking what worse can happen. We always, most of the time, see half empty glasses rather than half full, and we are always scared. I mean, that's the way God has created us. So, how do we help as school leaders? But this is my final question, and we conclude our conversation.
So I'm actually putting a chapter together in a book on building trust and
Wow.
trust really in terms of psychological safety. So what are these elements of psychological safety? I think school leaders need to answer that for themselves. So is it the relationship building that you have with faculty? And that doesn't always mean that you have to be kind and given to everything they
Yeah.
say. It has to be within the school policies. And I think what it means is also to be fair, and not just to be fair. And that takes me back to my principal when I was in school at Welham Girls. She used to say, it's important to be seen to be fair as a leader. And I think that is
Hmm.
very critical in leadership. So even if you get, if you have a difficult conversation with somebody, they are aware that you're doing it from a space of making them feel that they need to get to become better. or they have to improve, and it's not from a judgmental perspective. And I think shifting that needle to moving from judgment to developmental, whatever you do. And I'll give you a small example. At school, we used to call it lesson observations. Everyone used to fear it because, you got a rating at the end, and it was that. And we suddenly said it's not about you as a teacher, it's about the practice in the classroom. And we're going to come to review practice, and we'll call it quality assurance. And the whole system and that anxiety in the team actually just reduced substantially. Now people will say, okay, come and do quality assurance. I've tried something. Can you come and see if it's working? So,
Mm,
you build psychological safety with choice of words, the way you build relationships. Are you walking the talk? Are you seen to be fair? You don't have favorites. And it's, so there's equality and equity in policy that you practice. So I think those are some of the things that you build towards culture. It's the experience you give faculty. There is, again, I don't know the author, but it's called Change the Culture, Change the Game. And in that, they talk about how corporates are always looking for results. But results will come only if that underlying culture of that organization is going to change. And that
mm,
culture comes from what people experience on a daily basis and their belief system, because what they experience will lead to beliefs. And that belief then leads to action. And that action then leads to result. So, if you see, that's the trajectory. And somehow we want the results without actually changing the underlying culture of the organization.
lovely, wonderful. As I said, this is music to my ears, and so much learning in the last 35 minutes that I've been speaking to you formally on this subject. Thank you so much, Dr. Ambika. It's a pleasure. It's an honor
It was my
that
pleasure to be
we
with you, really.
learn from you and to be here, sharing this space and this insightful 35-minute conversation that we had.